Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is November 30th, 2023. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Then you have to put in the conference ID number, which is 803-849-222, then hit the pound. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We'll post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or hearing or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. To authorize this hybrid form of meeting, we'll have a roll call of all board members, starting with Ginny.
Virginia Fenwick.
And you vote?
Yes.
Lee Hovey, I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Randy Potash, I approve.
David H. Veach, I approve.
Okay, thank you. I ask that if any citizens or non-board members participate in the call by the phone, please give us your name and the last 4 digits of your phone number for ID purposes. Before we get into how the meeting is conducted, I want to congratulate Virginia Fenwick, who was approved by the Board of Selectmen 2 nights ago. And she has become a regular member, filling the void left when Buck Upson left. So your appointment runs until the end of June of 2026, which is kind of getting out there. But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
So how is the meeting conducted? Well, the hearing notice is first read by the lady to my right. This is Sarah B. Clark, and she's the PPO for the town. That's the principal permitting officer. Following that, we would have a presentation, either by the individual who filed the application or by their representative. Then we would ask for anybody in the audience or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor to do so. I would then read any and all correspondence that we had. Then I would ask for anybody who wishes to speak against the appeal or has a specific question to do so by indicating you'd like to join the conversation. When that is done, it's possible there could be some rebuttal. Then we would have questions from the board members. When we're done with that, we would close the public hearing and go into deliberation. Deliberation is amongst the board members, not amongst the public, unless a board member interjects someone who had participated in the discussion before into the discussion. At the end of the day, we could hopefully vote. And in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to be successful, you have to get a supermajority. In our case, there are 5 votes. That means that you need to get 4 out of the 5 to be successful. Are there any questions? Okay, and voting today, we have Virginia, Paul, myself, Randy, and Dave. Okay, Paul, minutes from October 19th and October 26th.
I will move for approval of both sets of minutes for October 19th and October 26th, 2023.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that. Jenny?
Ginny approves.
Paul votes yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
And Veach votes yes.
Okay. Sarah, application 22-093, please.
Application number 22-093, 782 Main Chatham LLC, care of Benjamin E. Zender Esquire, 62 Route 6A, Suite B, Orleans, Mass. 02653. Owner of property located at 782-784 Main Street. Also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14E, Block 36, Lot 55. On remand from the Land Court, the applicant seeks approval of variance number 22-093 denied by the board on October 20th, 2022, which sought relief from the required buildable upland area for apartments incidental to a commercial use. The proposal will create 4 apartments on the subject property where currently 3 apartments are legally protected. The property contains 18,282 square feet in the GB2 zoning district. A dimensional variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the protective bylaw.
Attorney Zender.
Mr. Nixon, it's nice to see you all again. My name is Ben Zender, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, 782 Main Street LLC, whose principal, Matt Cole, is on the line to answer any questions that you might have. The last time I was in front of you, I think the last time I was in this room with this board was on October of 20th of 2022, in which you heard the application of 782 Main Street for a number of forms of relief. One was an appeal of the building inspector's determination of the relief was required. One was an application for a special permit for construction of the building, and one was for a variance from the dimensional requirements that limit the number of units based on lot size. Board granted the special permit, which permitted the construction of the building for 2 apartments in the rear. And the applicant appealed the denial of the variance, which would allow the 3rd apartment in the rear. And at that meeting, just for the board's edification, members Semple, Veach, Thompson, Nixon, and Upson were the voting members on that matter. So, when the board's ready to appoint a board, just for your information, Mr. Nixon. This matter went up to the land court on appeal. And through the course of the appeal, an agreement was struck between appeal counsel, which was not myself, and the board through their counsel to agree to a remand of this matter back to your board for rehearing. And so in light of that request for remand, I've submitted to your board an application for an amendment to variance number 22-093, not to make any dimensional changes in the building or any aspect of the construction other than to permit the interior upstairs of this building to be 3 units instead of 2, with an agreement for the imposition of a restriction for affordable occupation of one of the 3 units in the rear building, a permanent restriction in that regard. And I understand that council have agreed upon certain conditions, at least at their level, but obviously this board needs to hear this matter. So this is essentially an application to you to amend the variance request. We had already made a fairly extensive presentation on the construction aspects of the project, and the board already heard that the building and the parking and the site were already approved by the planning board under site plan review, were already approved under HBDC, and then the special permit was approved by this board for the construction of the building itself. And I understand the building is about 95% complete, and they're looking at probably getting a CO sometime in January. So if the board were to see fit to approve an amended variance application as we've presented here, then they could actually finish out the upstairs to create that 3rd affordable unit for the building. The board heard testimony at the last hearing that the hardship to the applicant here, especially in having the number of units that you build, is construction is inherently very, very expensive these days. Any development of land, especially development of this type, is very costly, both in terms of labor and materials, permitting, acquisition of land, and all that. So having a 4th apartment on the site makes this project more affordable for them, and we believe that meets the requirement that this board can find that there's a hardship, financial or otherwise. Also, it's a hardship to the applicant not to be able to provide housing, and the town needs housing in the area, as some of the members, I think, were very emphatic in at least stating the understanding. The hardship has to be tied to a condition of the property that is either topographical, a shape factor, or a soil condition factor. We presented evidence on both the long, narrow nature of this lot, the tight confines of the development ability of this lot, and the fact that this building in the back, even though both our examination of town records and staff's very thorough examination of town records indicated that although there were 3 apartments back there, only 2 of them were created through the permitting process in the history of the building. So this building has been used in this way for many, many years. And so we believe that we attempted to demonstrate to the satisfaction of your board that both the shape of this and the prior history of this building are the conditions that tie to that hardship of needing to have that number of units. And finally, the 3rd leg of the test, I always call it the 3-legged stool. is that you have to demonstrate that the relief can be granted without substantially derogating from the spirit or the intent of the bylaw. And as you know, your bylaw does provide for multiple family dwelling use in this area. It's a needed commodity. This affordable unit will address that need. That the building is already there. It's constructed. It's not, this relief is not going to change the mass of the building or anything else. It's just going to change the ability to use the building for an additional dwelling unit. So we believe that this project is capable of receiving an amended variance in this regard. And we hope that you'll be able to grant it, and thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else here today that would like to speak in favor of this variance? That would include anybody on Microsoft Teams.
I see no one to speak in favor.
Okay, I will read the correspondence. And this is a letter from Patricia, and the last name is spelled Cheyne, and the address is 95 Depot Road, number 16 in Chatham. And she writes, I'm writing in regard to the proposed variance. As longtime abutting property owners, we vehemently object to this variance as it is excessive and will destroy the nature and character of our neighborhood. And then I have omitted the next paragraph because it's rather personal and we don't get involved in that sort of thing.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with the chair reading that paragraph if the chair wants.
I hope the zoning board continues to keep a reasonable perspective to save this area of land here in the heart of our quaint town and does not let this predatory individual destroy the beautiful open space that has been preserved. Let Mr. Zender go forth and ruin his town of Orleans. That's a very unfortunate statement. His overall plan for development of the lots is, please, we appeal to your sense of pride in our community. Stop this person from ruining our natural area. It abuts a commercial area that isn't so attractive, making this little slice of woods very appreciative. Thank you in advance for your continued preservation of the property. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this or has a specific question? Please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
I see no one to speak in opposition or with a question.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Dave?
No, I have no questions, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, Randy?
I don't have any questions.
Paul?
I have no questions.
Lee?
No questions.
Jenny?
I have no questions.
Okay,
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
And Dave Veach seconds.
we need a vote on that, Jenny?
Ginny votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Yes.
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations, and I think this is the time to interject this, so I presume, Mr. Zender, you went through these list of 4 things, and
I've seen the conditions.
you probably even wrote them, I'm not too sure. But
No, Mr. Chairman, first of all, with regard to the letter that the chair read, I'd like to clarify for the board that we've had some email correspondence between Mr. Cole and Ms. Shane, and we believe that she was referring to the Playhouse property. So, just for what it's worth for the chair, in case that letter has any substantive application of the board's consideration of the project, I tried to get that clarified in email. I couldn't get that clarified, but
Yeah,
it
well,
appears that was the case.
there's no place for a letter of that nature, so.
If I'm not taking shots, Mr.
No,
Chairman, I'm
I understand.
not doing my job, so. I've seen the conditions. They were actually negotiated between the appeal council.
Right.
I wasn't involved in that.
Okay.
But I have reviewed the conditions. I've discussed them with my client, and they're acceptable.
Okay. Paul is our condition guru. Would you please read them?
Yes, the conditions resulting from the litigation is one of the 3 approved apartment units located in the rear building, parens 784 Main Street, close parens, shall be restricted to a year-round rental by a household meeting 115% or lower of the Barnstable County Area Median Income, AMI. Said unit shall be the primary residence of the occupants. 2, said affordability restriction shall be secured and enforced by the town of Chatham pursuant to a deed restriction or other instrument executed by the owner of the subject property and recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 184, Sections 26 through 33. 3, the owner of the subject property shall, on an annual basis, provide to the town a report from a local monitoring agency approved by the town, parens, furnished and paid for by the property owners, close parens, verifying compliance with all requirements set forth in this decision and any monitoring agreement executed pursuant hereto, including but not limited to annual income of the occupants and the status of applicable rental/lease agreements. And 4, there shall be no subletting or assignment of the rent to occupy/use the restricted unit.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask the board about the specifics, Katie, did you wish to interject anything? This is Katie Doven. She is the Director of the Department of Community Development, which means she's the COO of it. That would mean the Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you,
Katie.
Mr. Chairman. Again, Katie Donovan, Director of Community Development. I don't have any specifics. We reviewed these as staff. Our Housing and Sustainability Director, Gloria McPherson, is also here. We all reviewed them together. I believe Town Council is online, so if there are any specific questions of Town Council, he should be available to answer those. But I think that, this satisfies the conditions that we were seeking.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Costello, did you wish to add anything to this conversation, or are you just going to wait and see if there's a question thrown your way? Either one's okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am perfectly comfortable with the conditions and the discussions I've heard to date. The conditions that have been recited are reflective of the terms of the settlement agreement that we reached in the land court litigation. Accordingly, I think they'd be entirely appropriate for the board to adopt should it so choose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, deliberation by the members of the board, including the various conditions. Paul, you read the conditions, and so.
Yes, we had, as Mr. Zender has mentioned, we had extensive discussions back in October of 2022, and evidence presented on behalf of the applicant. The board majority at that time concluded that the application did not satisfy all of the requirements of the variance, but at the same time, it was clear that there was substantial evidence being presented that could support the application. And as is necessary in any situation where you're dealing with litigation and the possibility that things may not go your way, the board, I think, is appropriately considering this variance again and applying the standards of the variance with respect to the narrow shape of the lot, the footprint, location of the apartment structure, and the hardship which is necessary. So I think given all of those factors, I can support a reconsideration of this matter and support the request for variance.
Lee?
Thank you. Well, I was not on the board at that time, but I did watch the hearing last night and have a much better understanding of what happened and what the issues are. I personally think this is a very good compromise, and if I were voting today, I would be in favor.
Jenny?
I have nothing else to add from what Paul and Lee have said, and I would be voting in favor.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, Paul has said it quite well. I would like to add that I did think in reading that letter that I was thinking it was being directed at a developer of an adjacent property rather than this one. So it's good to hear Attorney Zender point that out. But I will be supporting this. I supported it the last time, and I find it even more, that it meets all the criteria, and will support. Thanks.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know that I was here last time and I supported it. I don't remember if I was voting, probably not, given that we're here now. But I want to reiterate a few of the criteria that I really do believe that you met. So I think that we're lucky to get an apartment out of this that's going to be attainable, and it didn't have to go to court. So owing to the circumstances of that lot, it's behind a building and it's behind a business. So you can only ask so much for those apartments. And you said last time that you thought it was financially not feasible. And I actually found a case where the court supported that argument. It didn't have to be, it can't do anything with the land. I think it's Marshalian, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Marashlian.
Right. And so in any event, owing to those circumstances, that it's not, you said it wasn't feasible to charge over $3,000 to live over a business. A lot of people aren't gonna wanna pay that. So this way, you're gonna have 3 apartments that are gonna be much less expensive, and it's feasible for you. And our bylaw, the purpose and intent of the bylaw is to provide housing for all incomes. So I think you're squarely within the law, and I'm happy with this result.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
I'll move to approve the application as submitted with the conditions set forth earlier.
Dave Veach seconds.
We need a vote on that, Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Yes.
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous decision.
Thank you all. It was
Thank
nice
you
to be
very
again
much
today.
for your diligence over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Sarah, 23-099, please.
Application number 23-099, 45 Meadowview LLC, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 45 Meadowview Road South, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 10D, Block 21, Lot S9. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The proposed dwelling will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 1,434 square feet, 8.5%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,478 square feet, 14.7%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming, and that it contains 16,817 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Norcross.
Jamie Norcross representing Dan Russell. Dan is in the audience today as well. Dan had such a good time with 184 Barcliff, he decided to come back with another project, so.
I guess we were too easy on you, Dan.
Yeah. So as you heard, it's 45 Meadowview Road South. It's a little confusing out in that area. It's Meadowview Road South, and Meadowview Road Extension. But we are dealing with an existing 3-bedroom house, 1960s era. And Dan is proposing to demolish the existing structure and build a new 4-bedroom home. It's connected to town sewer, so Dan is able to add the additional 4th bedroom at the property. The existing structure is conforming as to setbacks and building coverage. The lot, however, is undersized. It's 16,000 square feet and change, where 20,000 square feet is required in this zone, and therefore that's why we are here today with an application for a special permit. The proposed house, while increasing in size, will also meet all dimensional setbacks and will be in conformance with the 15% building coverage requirement. Half joking a moment ago about the 184 Barcliff filing, but through that process, Dan was able to understand and some concerns of the board that were raised relative to design. So that impacted when he was speaking with his architect to come up with this building in terms of coming up with more of a cape feature using dormers. You see the doghouse dormers on the front, dormers on the back and the side to create the additional living area as opposed to the gambrel style that was not well received. So he did take that criticism to heart in terms of discussing it with his architect to try to propose something that's a little bit more traditional for this area. Again, Meadowview and Barcliff are different areas of town, of course, and it's not a historic property or historic neighborhood. But in driving around the neighborhood again today, I think this design is similar in style to a lot of properties that are out in that area. So I think it was really a good decision by Dan to come up with a design that, again, uses more of a classic capes feature with the dormers as opposed to a gambrel design. In terms of size, we're obviously increasing, but I don't think it's disproportionate to the homes in the neighborhood. There's a mixture. There are some 1960s era homes that have been left largely untouched since that time, but there are another number of newer properties that you see, primarily as you drive in off of Barnhill Lane, or Barnhill Road, excuse me, on the left on Meadowview. There's a number of newer properties with similar styles to this house. Meadowview Road extension in particular, I believe with the exception of one home, all the properties on that strip of road are newer, 2004 or later, and are larger in size. So I think it's a home that is appropriate for the neighborhood as designed, even with the size increase. And one element that the association requested, the homeowners association, and Dan agreed to, is you see the, oh, if you don't mind going back to the elevation, sorry, is the garage. So it's a side entrance garage. They thought that was a better look in terms of trying to minimize some of the size. So the garage is off to the right-hand side as a request of the association, and Dan and his architect were comfortable with that design. Moving along to the criteria. Number one, adequacy of the size of the site in terms of size for the proposed use. Again, we believe the size is adequate for the proposal. We meet all dimensional setbacks and the building coverage requirement. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. As I mentioned, it's larger, but I think it's not out of proportion with the neighborhood. And I don't think it's a house that's gonna stick out. I think it's a 16,000 square foot lot. There's a significant amount of vegetation. And so I think, again, while it's gonna be higher and larger, it's not disproportionate. I did provide a calculation at the end with the net areas, which, as we know, is different than the gross floor areas that we are required to submit with the application. But again, if you just go off our gross floor area exclusive of basement, which is proposed to be unfinished at this time anyway, is around 3,600 square feet. There are several properties, again, primarily on Meadowview Road extension, that are over 3,000 square feet, first and second floor net area, according to the records with the town assessor's office. Number three, extent of the proposed increase in non-conforming nature of the structure or use. There is no proposed increase. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties. We believe the property is suitable for the proposed demolition and rebuild. There will be no negative impact on neighboring properties or the environment caused by the proposed construction. Impact of scale, setting, and mass on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. I'd suggest there's no negative impact on neighborhood visual character. The height and size are increasing, but the design incorporates more of a traditional Cape-style home and uses dormers to create additional living space on the second floor, as opposed to different style of property, of homes, such as a gambrel. There's also significant vegetation, especially along the back side of the house, that will help shield some of the impact of the larger home. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses, residential use in a residential neighborhood, therefore it's compatible. Method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage. Properties connected to town water and town sewer, and there will be adequate drainage on the property, and runoff will be contained on site. Impact on traffic flow and safety. There will be an additional bedroom added, going from 3 to 4, but I don't think that's gonna have any appreciable impact on traffic flow and safety. Noise and litter, again, no issues with noise and litter. Number 10, adequacy of utilities. The property has adequate utilities. And 11 and 12 are not applicable. So based on the the design of the home, a review of the neighborhood. We feel it's appropriate for this neighborhood and certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the conversation.
Mr. Ritchie would like to speak.
Okay?
Yes, hello, my name is Brian Ritchie. I'm on the Oyster River Hills Association Board of Directors. And when we found out about Mr. Russell's purchase and plan, we did reach out to all of the abutters as well as the association as a whole to get their feedback. Mr. Russell did have another house in the area that he had done previously. After getting feedback from the association members in our annual meeting this past September, we then took that information and I sat down with Mr. Russell and we negotiated a series of agreements with which he's agreed to comply with in order to satisfy the board of directors. I submitted that letter to Ms. Clark, so she has it. You can probably read it in a moment or two. But we're in conformance and support of what Mr. Russell would like to do. If there is any abutter or other association member that has an issue, we've asked them to reach out to the ZBA separately, but we did share with them our recommendation and our plans to support the proposal.
Okay. Did you want to read the letter that you're specific?
I can do that if you'd like. I've got it here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I'm not a Teams expert.
Well, you can read it.
Okay, let me go through it. This is to the ZBA. It was dated November 1st. RE proposed development, 45 Meadowview Road South. Dear board members, this letter is intended to inform you that the Board of Directors of Oyster River Hills Association Incorporated has recently reviewed the plans for the building proposed by builder Dan Russell at 45 Meadowview Road South, which is within the ORH boundaries. We have several communications with Mr. Russell regarding features of the proposed building and its potential environmental and aesthetic impact on our neighborhood. Mr. Russell has explained measures he will take to mitigate potential erosion and sedimentation and other concerns for this project. These measures include install appropriate erosion control measures to prevent sediment runoff from the site, put all utilities underground, C, National Grid to install natural gas at the property. D, construction vehicles will park on 45 Meadowview Road South property only, not on association roads. E, landscaping for the site will include many plants that will soften building facade. F, HVAC unit and generator, if furnished, will be located away from the neighboring property lines as much as possible. The builder will share proposed locations with the association for approval in advance of the installation. Bear with me for 1 second, please. G, garage will space away from the road and adequate turning radii will be provided for homeowners' use of the driveway and garages. H, workers' hours will be restricted to the period from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. only. The builder will endeavor to limit outdoor work in July and August. I, builder will give the association a minimum of 2 weeks' notice prior to heavy truck traffic periods for material removal and delivery, i.e. demolition and any fill that needs to be brought in. J, all building downspouts will be piped into dry wells. K, pervious material will be used for the driveway to limit drainage runoff from the site. L, driveway runoff will capture and infiltrate on site to prevent runoff onto Meadowview Road South. And then the last point, install silt sacks at the 2 catch basins down the slope from the project in the vicinity of 88 Meadowview Road to capture potential situation for the duration of the project. We are satisfied with Mr. Russell's approaches to building on the site, and the association has no objection to this project moving ahead with these measures and any delineated by the ZBA in place. Notice that the association does not speak for individual abutters of this property. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you may have with regards to ORHA's position on this proposed project. Sincerely, Brian Ritchie, ORHA Director and Project Liaison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ritchie. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this project?
I see no one else to speak in favor.
Then I'll read the other correspondence besides what Mr. Ritchie already read. This is from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health, Town of Chatham. She writes on 11/14, I've reviewed the plan to demo and rebuild the dwellings. The property is connected to the town sewer system. The proposal to build a 4-bedroom dwelling meets the requirements of the Board of Health and the sewer regulations. I have no concerns. Is there anyone here today or in the audience who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the conversation.
I see no one in opposition or with a question.
Okay, we'll have questions from the board. Ginny, do you have any questions?
I do have a couple of questions. So is it, I wanted to talk about the driveway. I do agree, I like the fact that the garage entranceway is off to the side and not in the front. That does have a better look, but I was a little concerned about the turning radius. Is there a rule of thumb for what's, because 26 feet seems a little short in that back corner.
My name is Dan Russell, I'm the owner of the property. The turning radius does meet, civil turning radius options, but we are gonna also, after this approval, I am gonna speak to the neighbor to the right that I have not spoken to yet. I think it's mainly a rental property. And I'm gonna see, instead of doing the retaining wall, if I can grade onto his property. And if I can grade onto his property, then I can make that even softer. So that, I haven't asked him yet, but yes, the turning radius does work. And it's, they really wanted those garages on the side, and to keep the setbacks, you really have no choice. Otherwise, I need to move it closer to the left property, which I don't want to do.
Okay, so the 26 feet is farther in the back. You'd admit that that's short, but that's farther in the back than what you have in the front, and you're
Yeah.
looking to reduce that wall, because,
That's right. If I reduce the wall, then I can obviously,
Yeah.
I can grade down and steal a couple more feet.
so with the garage on the side, which I like the look, but it also, tell me if this is correct, the length of the house is 72 feet, the length from side.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, without, I mean, that just is visually then gonna look like a really large and lengthy house, and then your height, of course, is a foot from the max, so it just is, and on top of that, you're also, I think, in looking at the site plan, pulling the, proposed house forward quite a bit, like the existing house is almost in the
Yeah,
middle
it's
of
within the setback. I mean, that's just pretty much
I
where the people
understand
chose
that,
to.
but the combination of the fact that it's a foot from the max, it's got 72 feet across, it's on an elevated lot, which I know all the houses are.
Yeah.
And then the combination of all of those things are really potentially contributing to what is going to look quite massive. That's why I was asking about the house is going to be forward, it's going to be taller, so it's about it's a halfway, I mean, the existing house was halfway in the middle of what's proposed.
The proposed is to the, I guess you have the entryway, it's 25 and a half feet, but then it's another 5 feet till you get to the main structure. So I guess just over 30 feet setback for the proposed.
But how much did you come in from the existing house, closer to the street?
I'm trying to see.
Because when I look at the site plan, it looks like it's half the building.
I can get, I mean,
Okay, so that was a question.
it met the setbacks, so I didn't.
If you want to check that, Kevin gave me the number, but I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
I can look for that while you're.
Okay.
So I recognize that the houses on the street, they're all really elevated. They're all
Yeah.
on this isn't the only property.
Oh, yeah, there's some that are elevated much higher than this,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't think that many of the houses are the height that you're proposing. So I want to talk about the height, and the question I have about that is.
I mean, I didn't shoot all the houses, but there are literally houses that are the exact, look like the exact same height.
Well, I had a question about this, the height calculation, I guess you could say. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, maybe if you'd give me a little bit more of an understanding of what is meant by the 20-foot offset. But I was curious to know, when I looked at the height calculation table, like, is it common to have a difference in, like, I thought it was curious that the north had 5 data points, the east has 2, the south has 3, the west, I mean, it almost looks a little like, why don't they have consistent data points? The reason I'm asking that detailed question is because it goes to the calculation of the height, and you're a foot from the max. So I just feel like,
He's meeting the data points for the.
but is there a reason why
for the
you
bylaw.
have, why
And I'm
you?
not a civil engineer, but
I don't think it's uncommon that you have a different number of readings or data
Yeah.
points based on the location.
it happens on every house, yeah.
It's not always 2 or 3 or whatever, depending on, I can't speak for Kevin.
And a lot of times, if the grade just stays exactly the same, he doesn't put any data point in at all, because you don't need another one, because between the data
Okay,
points,
so it's not a
exactly the same.
coincidence that the northern has 5 data points, all of high
No.
numbers?
Is the northern, does it fluctuate, are they different data points? Because a lot of the house has, it doesn't fluctuate in grade at all.
Okay, I'm not a civil engineer either.
Yeah.
I just thought it was, that was the question, was
Well, I think if
why
it
did they
didn't meet,
vary?
sorry to interrupt, I think if it didn't meet the standard required by the building department, they wouldn't have accepted the figures, so.
Well, I'm only asking because these numbers in totality could be a difference of a few inches, and if you are only a few inches from the maximum, you're pulling the house forward, you're on an elevated lot, you're going almost to the max. That's why I was asking those questions.
Well, we could probably, when you make that, we can grade here. This is not existing grades to height. You can grade the lot. I mean, I could cheat it the other way, but I don't want to, because I don't want the water coming back towards the house. These are not something that we can grade it to whatever we want. We're just doing sensible grading, and then we're taking our data points. Those are future data points,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
I mean, so if I wanted to, I could put drainage around the house, and I could actually slightly slope up to my 20 feet, and and the ridge would be, and I could get the ridge higher. I'm not doing that, I'm just, the guy, I don't tell him what to do, he does it sensibly, so it all drains properly.
And so is that what the 20-foot offset means?
Yes.
Dotted line
Yep,
around?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
That's the law in Chatham, yeah. It's different, and different towns are different.
Well, I did wonder why some of the data points were, anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to answer your question on the existing setback is 47.1 feet for the existing house.
47, and then this.
Is 25 to the porch and then
Yep.
30 to the house. It's 47.
Okay, thank you for confirming that.
Lee, questions?
Yes, just a quick question. Do you have a plan for where the AC condensers are going to go? I don't see them on,
They'll be within, yeah, the AC condensers will be tucked near the areaway on the left, like right to the left of the patios pavers.
okay.
And then some other ones will be tucked. You see that little notch in the patio? Kind of, you see behind the master bedroom on the first floor, behind the garages? There's that little notch where the paver doesn't go over evenly.
Okay.
That'd be another spot there. Yeah,
Okay.
we hide them, and, we don't want them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Paul?
I have no questions.
Randy?
I don't have any questions.
Dave?
And I have no questions, Dave.
I had a couple. The last time we saw you, Mr. Russell, there was a lot to do about a pool, as you recall.
I have no plans. There's not a lot of pools in the neighborhood. I have no plans to put in a pool, but it's someone
It
buys
could happen.
Yeah. I'm
The
not,
next owner could do it.
I
but-
don't-
But you
yeah.
specifically don't.
me specifically, no.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, my general concern,
Okay.
and I think was brought up a little bit either by Lee or Ginny about things being maxed out, and Jamie, you know that we've talked about this with other projects and all that, where I know you can go to 15, and I know it's, you know, this and all that, but when I looked at your lot from the street, I think I felt that it was being built out more than your neighbors. Now, I didn't run around and measure everybody's house and all that kind of stuff. It was just my perception.
Okay, so,
And, you know, about the length of it
yeah.
and the height. And I know you can play the games with the height, but if you're in the street and you're looking at that house, and let's say nothing changed about the grades and all that, isn't that going to be tall? And hopefully there wouldn't be a mistake. It just seemed to me to be too much. And, you know, it's in the beholder's eyes, right? You know,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. So, did you, when you had it designed,
Yes.
did you feel that you needed to have essentially 29 feet because you needed the space on the second floor? Was that the reason for it?
It's a couple of different reasons. I mean, I think we took a lot of care in the design to make the building look much lower. Behind, if you look at this house, when you, I don't know how well you know the neighborhood, but Meadowview is, you know, our Meadowview South is very low. Then it goes way up to Meadowview Road. That house behind me towers over this. I mean, it's literally, it goes up and towers over this house. You don't, it's gonna blend right into the neighborhood. It's not, there's houses of different heights all over the place, and there's hills, and it's much different topography, like say to a Barcliff where everything was flat and we were looking specifically from one house to another. And I think it fits in
Yeah, I
beautifully.
mean, the other side of Meadowview Road South, those houses are all significantly higher, just given the topography,
Yeah,
so.
oh, absolutely. I mean, if I shot peaks of roof, which you would do to do an analysis, you'd have houses.
Yeah, no, and I'd have to agree with you. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just
yeah, they're
talking
all over
about the
the place.
specific, looking here. Okay. So then, maxing out to near 15%. And what did you start with?
8, I think? 8 and change?
Yeah. So that was over 1,000 square feet change, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
the
an
increase is more
yeah.
than 1,000 square feet, right?
The footprint, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us why you did that. Was that because of the additional bedroom, or you just felt the rooms needed to be X,
Yeah,
Y, Z? Or-
it's an additional bedroom, and it's the garages. I mean, the garages are, people want people to have garages, especially in a really nice neighborhood, and that's the majority of it. It's actually over. I think if you add the garages in and you add the bedroom, you're over the existing footprint.
Yeah, and I must admit, I agree with the, Mr. Ritchie's comments about putting the entrance on the side.
Yeah.
Is a huge improvement.
There's another brand-new house where they were not able to do it. I'm actually friendly with the people that built it, and it makes the Cape look really long and big with the 2 garages added in the end. It looks much nicer when you turn them.
Okay. Okay, that's all for questions. All right, Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay. Lee? On deliberation.
Want to vote on the,
Oh, sorry, you're right.
I vote yes.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. I was pushing the envelope here. Okay, Lee.
Okay, well, I think this is a nice project. It is a big house, but I think the neighborhood can handle it. So if I were voting, I would be voting in favor.
Paul?
I agree. I think it's a good project, and it meets our standards. I think it's correct to say that when you look at Meadowview South versus Meadowview Road, the houses behind are much higher, and the whole thing sort of towers over what would otherwise be, if these were on flat ground, might make this project too tall. But I think that the setting is such that within the neighborhood, it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had essentially the same impression that the chair did, but I was just waiting for deliberations, because I assume that you want it that big so you can make more money I mean, obviously, you want a bigger house, you get more money for it. But I think it's maxing out the lot size. It's not a huge lot, it's not tiny, but it's 25% smaller than 20,000 square feet, which is the zoned area. But the house is really big. So I would be in favor of it if it was a large lot, because we have big house, big lot, medium house, medium lot, small house, small lot. That's how I think. So I think it's too tall, and I think the mass, and if we're going to talk about the criteria, number 2, compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. I think it's too big of a house on too small of a lot, like I said, and the impact on scale, sighting, and mass on the neighborhood visual character. I just think perception is reality, and it's just a little bit too much mass.
Dave?
I'm in agreement with Paul's take on this. I don't, with respect to the height, you know, they're about 13 inches below the maximum allowed, which I think is, you know, I don't think that's really pushing it that much. That's a pretty good sized difference from the maximum. You know, in my just driving around in the neighborhood and looking, I mean, yeah, they haven't provided us with neighborhood comparisons necessarily, but at least visually going around the neighborhood, I felt like, yes, it's going to be a larger structure than what's there, but it didn't look to me to be out of place in what I would consider to be the neighborhood. And I also think that it's certainly they've agreed to a number of things in working with the neighborhood association, and the neighborhood association is supporting this and backing this. And I certainly, I think that speaks well of the proposal and their ability and desire to work with the neighborhood. So all in all, I find that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and I can support it.
Jenny?
I am, like Randy, struggling with criteria 2 and 5. The scale, sighting, and the mass on the neighborhood. So, you know, I had some of my questions were related to height and the elevation and the length of the house. It does feel to me like a maxing out. I do really appreciate that the neighbors are supportive, and I think that it's a really good plan. The design, you're making it Cape Cod, appreciate all of that. But if I could just, when I look at a few of the things, coverage, you're 44 square feet from the maximum. So these are comments I'm making about maximization. Height, I had your 12 and an 1/8 inch from the maximum. The length of the, and I know it includes the garage, is 72 feet. The first and second floor only, you mentioned that, Jamie, not including the basement, is doubled from what the current house is. And I know it's because the current house doesn't have a second story, that's part of it, but it's just quite massive. But the main thing I think that's gonna contribute to the mass is this elevation. When I look at the site plan, it looks to me like at the street level, it's 100, and then the proposed ridge elevation of 134, which subtract those two, even though it's gonna be the height that it is, it's gonna appear potentially like it's 34 feet above the street. That's a lot with that elevation. So in totality, the combination of those things are what make me concerned about 2 and 5.
Yeah, and I think I expressed my concern about the overall mass. I hear what Mr. Russell said about the height, but I just think it's maxing that lot out too much.
I guess I just have a moment to respond on a couple of those points. The height, if you reduce it a foot and a half, you're not gonna notice a difference from the street. I mean, it's not, you can reduce it 3 feet, it doesn't really make a difference, you're so far below the grade that it's not an instrumental change. The size, I guess we're struggling with the idea of maxing out as to what exactly that means, because how do we design a project that isn't considered maxing out? You go to the bylaw for this. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, but from a planning perspective, it's quite difficult for us. So I guess we'd like some direction. Is 2 feet below maxing out? I don't know. Is 13% maxing out?
Can I weigh in on that a little bit?
Sure.
As the lot gets smaller, your bylaw controls the maxing. My lot is 16,000 feet. I can do 15% of 16,000, which is less than 15% of 20,000. That's the way the law, that's the way it was written, and that's how it controls it. The next door neighbor who's sitting here, who has a very large lot, he can build a 8,000 square foot lot by right, because his lot is over 20,000 feet. Your lot, your bylaw is already controlling those issues, because of when the lot's smaller, obviously, the house is smaller.
I understand.
Right, and the whole height thing, again, I'm
Yeah.
No,
a
I
foot
think
below.
you-
It's confusing, it's,
I think you covered the height thing.
okay, all right.
Okay? I think you did. So Jamie, would you like me to call for a vote?
Well, I guess if we can get some feedback on the design, do people like the look of the house in terms of if we're gonna make adjustments, it would be helpful for us to have a little bit of input on that in terms of style.
I don't think anybody mentioned the style. I
Okay.
mean, it wasn't like before in Barcliff where, you know, that was it. No.
Right.
I think myself, this is on track as far as the style of it goes. But no one else mentioned that they didn't like it, so.
Okay.
But it's, what you're hearing is, I think 3 of us have said, it's just too much.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't think we have to, I mean, we're not doing a redesign like last time, so I would hope that we could do a continuance as opposed to a withdrawal.
I think you're correct.
Okay. So we would ask to.
Could I make a comment?
No, sir. You already had an opportunity to make a comment and you had your time. This-
Thank you.
I just want to check with Dan on timing real quick. January 25th, okay. So we'd ask the January 25th meeting, Sarah, is that available?
If the board is inclined, we have 5 on January 11th. We will have 5 on January 25th, so
First one in February.
February 8th.
How's that? February 8th?
Sure. We would ask to continue to your February 8th meeting.
Okay. Paul?
I'll move to grant the requested relief to continuance to February 8th, 2024.
Dave Veach seconds.
All right, we need a vote on that, Jeannie.
Jeannie votes yes.
All vote yes?
Paul?
Yes,
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay, Sarah, we're on to 23-101, please.
Application number 23-101, Mark Plansky, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 146 Oldfield Bend, also shown in the town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14J, Block 45, Lot R59. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming, and it is located 19.1 feet from the southerly abutter and 21 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required, and partially within setback to the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The proposed addition will be non-conforming, and that it will be located 19.1 feet from the southerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,163 square feet, 10.5%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,396 square feet, 12.5%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 115 feet of frontage where 150 feet is required, contains 24,628 square feet of land area where 40,000 square feet is required, and contains 10,985 square feet of buildable upland where 20,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protected bylaw.
Good afternoon, Jamie Norcross, representing Mark Plansky, owner of the property at 146 Oldfield Bend Road. This is a pretty minor project. Mr. Plansky is taking the existing deck on the property, one of the existing decks, and he's gonna build a 3-season room over it, as you see on here. So it's As you drive into the property, up his driveway, it's the deck on the right, so the smaller deck. And he is taking that footing, adding a couple sonotubes for additional support, and building the three-season porch that you see there. Moving along to the criteria.
I honestly don't think you have to go through the criteria.
Oh, well, perfect, okay.
If a member has a question, they can ask you, but sometimes it's just,
Yeah, oh, I'm happy to, that's it.
Okay.
Any questions, we're happy to answer.
thank you very much. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak in support of this? If so, please indicate now you'd like to join the meeting.
There is no one to speak in support.
Okay. And the correspondence is limited. Judith Georgia writes on 11/14, I have no concerns. The room will be built on sonotubes and will not encroach on the existing septic. And then we have a note from the Conservation Commission. On October 30th, Crystal Keon writes, the applicant has filed an administration review that was approved by Paul Whiteman on October 23rd. The only condition on the permit is that the sonotubes be dug by hand. Okay, is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the meeting.
There is no one with a question or to speak in opposition.
Okay, does anyone on the board have a question?
I just had a clarification question. I think I know the answer, but on the site plan, Jamie, on your criteria, it's listed as the coverage will go to 13.5. Is that because it includes the shed?
No, because it's covered space now, so it's an increase. Because
Okay.
right now you don't count the deck as building coverage.
No, I know that, but it's, I'm just pointing out that the ad, the application ad on the front page says that the building coverage is going to 12.5. I just want to make sure it's correct and that the applicant doesn't shortchange themselves.
The plan says 13.5.
The plan does say 13.5, however, the 85 square foot shed is not included in building coverage because
Right.
it's under 100 square feet.
Okay, so that could come out, and now their coverage is only 12.5, not 13.5.
Thank you, Sarah, excellent.
Okay,
We usually don't have it go in reverse, Sarah. This is-
Wait a second, yeah.
yeah,
Jenny, any other question?
no.
No, okay.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
We need a vote on that, Jenny.
Any votes yes?
Paul?
All vote yes.
Yes,
Each votes
I
yes.
vote yes, okay. Deliberation. Randy?
oh, well, it meets all the criteria, and I support it.
Dave?
Yeah, I would agree with that, not substantially more detrimental in the neighborhood. I would like to just take this opportunity to comment, Jamie. I noticed that you, on this one as well, have provided some neighborhood comparison, square footage things, and as you did on a previous application. I'd just like to tell you that I'm getting confused more by your numbers than anything else.
Okay.
I'd rather you give me the straight gross square footage and not, I'm finding it, so in the moment, I'm sitting here looking
Yeah.
at which was just handed. And then the last one, and I'm just giving you feedback.
Yeah.
That I'm finding it more confusing than helpful to me.
The
And
problem
so-
is, oh, sorry to interrupt. The problem is we don't have those are pulled from the assessors who give you net area.
I assume that.
Right.
And I know that there are other, there are ways to approximate, I think, using the assessor's records, there are ways to approximate gross square footage as well. I know other offices in the
Okay.
town give us comparison. I'm just saying, the more, when you start splitting it up and saying, and then also on this sheet, you don't actually show me the proposal for the subject property. So I'm finding it, I would like to have more at a glance, an apples to apples comparison with neighboring properties. And in some instances, like this one, it's probably not that important because we can see it. But in others, such as the previous one, it's very important. And we need to train, that's what we're trying to do. So anything you can do that makes it easier for
Right.
us to do that apples to apples, the more I'm trying to encourage that.
Okay,
So,
I
thanks.
appreciate the
Sure.
feedback, yep.
Yeah,
That was very good, and if Mr. Veach doesn't understand it, trust me, I think the rest of us are in the dark, so, you know.
Sure.
Anyway, so where were we, Paul?
Well, I think we're at the point where we could move to approve the application, which I will do. I will move to approve the application as submitted. I think the only maybe concession we would want is that all construction activity and vehicles would be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner, given where it's located here.
Sure. Okay.
That's fine.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay. Need a vote on that, Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
All vote yes?
Randy votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you
Wasn't
very much.
that easy and simple, Jamie?
Exactly.
Yes. Jamie, don't run away. I think we'll do your continuance now. If you want to.
I can go after, I have to, I can wait, because I have to speak to my client, so that's fine.
Okay, so Sarah, we're on to 23-102, please.
Application number 23-102, Nicholas Colucci and Eleanor Burton Colucci, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 111 Scattery Road, also showed on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16J, Block 29, Lot LC8. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling at a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing dwelling is non-conforming, and it is located 49 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District. The proposed dwelling will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second accept clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 2,245 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,937 square feet, where 2,950 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 28,382 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
Waiting on Bill here.
Would you like to start with that, Mr. Riley?
Sure, I can. I'm the architect. I'm also the son of the owners of the property,
Okay, do you have a name?
Alex Colucci.
Thank you.
So I'll let Bill handle all the technical stuff and the conditions,
Okay.
but I'll just, give a little background here. My family has owned this home since 2016. We have now had 6 summers in it. Before that, we've rented for about 30 years in the towns of Chatham and Harwich. So that, of course, doesn't make us locals, but we feel like we know the area well. And because of that, we've strived to be thoughtful in our design and approach. We want to add to our community and take into account our surroundings and our neighbors. The expectation is that this proposed home will be occupied for 5 to 6 months out of the year. So a great many changes were needed to repair, update, and modernize the existing home in order to respond to our family's needs. After exploring the idea of a renovation or improvement to what was there, it became clear that the desired changes would result in a substantially new home regardless, and that's where we are today with our proposed design. We've taken great efforts to be within the setbacks and regulations and eliminate the existing nonconformities within our control. The existing house is within a coastal conservancy setback, as is a mechanical pad, both of which will be eliminated in our proposed design. The new proposed house will be further from the coastal bank. It's approximately 5 feet further from the coastal bank than it is right now. But we are remaining the bulk of the home in the center of the house and within all setbacks. The house is getting taller. We've raised the first floor elevation to give us a little additional breathing room from the floodplain. And we also would like to have some taller ceilings. It's about 7'2" in the existing house on both the first and second floor. But we've still kept the house about 5 feet short of the maximum height. Finally, we have increased the footprint of the home, added to the gross square footage. The existing gross square footage is around 400 square feet, I believe. The proposed gross square footage will be around 4,600 square feet. We are adding no additional bedrooms. We are just increasing the amount of living space and increasing the size of some of the bedrooms that are already there, which is a total of 4, just to better respond to the way we plan to use our home and to meet the needs of our family. The proposed new home has been designed to be compatible both in scale and aesthetically with the surrounding neighborhood and town, which is of great importance to our family. We've shared the plans with all of our neighbors this summer ahead of this meeting, and have heard no great objections. I believe there are a couple of letters in support. In terms of materiality, it'll be shingled on the walls and the roof, have painted trim like many of our neighbors. And, you know, overall, from Scattery Road, the home is meant to look and feel like a traditional Cape home that has always been there, but has been updated, added to, and given a little bit of new personality.
Thank you. Mr. Riley?
Mr. Nixon, Bill Riley on behalf of Nick and Ella Colucci. Nick is here sweating it out, watching his son try to build him a new house. So let's keep, you know, the heart forefront here. Put the brains aside, we're going with the heart today. So the criteria, adequacy of the size of the site in terms of the proposed use. This is one of those lots where I just used the percentage that was on the Dave Clark's plan. Nick reminded me that we're actually limited to 2,950 square feet, and we're 37 square feet short of that.
20 something square feet short.
Well, around 30 square feet short of that, so.
Let's go with that.
But I think, in terms of, put you up the front elevation again? You know, so, but because of the way the building sets on the lot and how the lot drifts away on either side, you get no impression that this is a house that's too big for this lot. So 2,950 square feet, we're just under that. So anyway, we meet all the setbacks from both a sideline street and the Coastal Conservancy District. And we're 4 feet below the maximum height. So we think that, you know, the site's adequate for the proposed building. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure, so I have to apologize to Dave Veach because, you know, the math I was doing, trying to compute the gross floor area using the assessor's maps, I wasn't convinced I was anywhere even near accurate in my calculations. You know, as I say, if I could have done math, I would have been a doctor. So I just went with the net area again. So, and I think that, you know, since we did that for years, you know, I mean, it's still a good relative factor to use. In any event, we think that the building fits right in with the neighborhood. Yeah, we have some, directly across the street, we have an old little antique, and across the street from that, we have a, 4,000 square foot brand new house. So, and it's funny, the largest house in the neighborhood is a big antique on the top of the hill. It used to be the old tavern. You know, that's 5,000 something square feet. So this is a neighborhood that has a lot of different size homes in it. Most of the homes are set pretty far back, you know, particularly the bigger ones. And I think that the Colucci's have kept that in mind by setting as far back on the property as they could. So the extent of the proposed increase in non-conforming nature, because we're meeting all the dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but we are increasing the living area, as you know, under the Bransford/Bjorkland decisions, that's considered an intensification of the nonconformity. having increased living area on an undersized lot. So that would be the only increase in nonconformity. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties, the natural environment, including the slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and stormwater runoff. So we've been to the Conservation Commission because we are all right, oops, yeah, okay, so we are within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. The, as you can see, the line that goes through the patio is 100 feet from, I can't see what it says, supposed to be from the, yeah, right, that. And the 50-foot line is right there. Very good, thank you. So in addition to having standard siltation prevention devices, which is the line with the little arrows on it. Take your hand there and run it up that line, Sarah. There you go. There'll be straw wattles there to keep any siltation from going down towards the wetland. The wetland's actually on the other side of the driveway. So what the Colucci's are doing, they want to remove all the invasive material on the site. And if they stopped at their property line, the invasives would be just on the other side of the property line and would grow back. So working with their neighbor, Eileen Ryan, they get permission to go onto her property. So between the driveway and the property line, they're going to be removing all the invasives there as well and replacing them with native vegetation. That's a design done by Wilkinson Ecological Design. So in terms of suitability of the site for the project and what we propose, we think that this is a very significant upgrade, and we know that the construction is not going to create any problems for wetlands or neighboring properties. So impact of scale, siting, and mass. So we go back to the elevations again, Sarah. There you go. Neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. Because of the design they put together, I think that, from the street, it's a very, very traditional design. The eastern point of view, which is the upper right corner, have a couple of gable ends, but that's facing out towards the wetland and Eileen Ryan's property. But as it faces the street, I think it's really a beautiful home, surrounded by traditional designs and some antiques, and it really fits in the neighborhood. So I believe that you could clearly find that this is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. And this property, this structure doesn't block views or vistas. So I really think it's a great design. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses.
I don't think you have to go through any more criteria.
You sure? Because I really want to do the method of sewage disposal.
No.
Okay.
Thank you for your offer. Anything else you'd like to offer? Or is that your presentation?
Vote yes.
All right. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this? If so, please let us know. There's a gentleman. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Doherty. I live. Sorry.
We're slaves to the TV, so you can only speak when there's a mic in front of you. Yes, Mr. Doherty, please tell us who you are.
My name is Bob Doherty. I live about 6 to 8 houses to the west of this house. I walk by it every day. It's a gorgeous house today, and what they're going to put up is just as pretty and will be a great addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? I'll read the correspondence then, Sarah, unless you see somebody. Okay. First we have, this is from the Conservation Commission, Crystal Keon, the administrative assistant. She writes on November 21st, the project is scheduled for an order of conditions on December 6th. The project will be conditioned to meet the performance standards and so forth. Okay, then we have Judith Giorgio on 11/14 saying, I've reviewed the plan to demo The applicant's proposing a new four-bedroom dwelling to replace what's there. The existing septic system will be used for new construction and must maintain the required setbacks to the dwelling. Floor plans of the existing dwelling must be submitted as part of the building permit process to confirm the existing bedroom number. Then we have a letter on October 7th from Eileen Amy Ryan, and she's at 119 Scattery Road. She writes, I wholeheartedly support the work, and this includes the removal of invasive plants, and their selected contractors. The work will be a substantial visual and improvement to our properties. And then we have a note from Joe and I think it's Mary Piscina, Piscina, on October 31st. They're right. Congratulations on the commencement of construction. As your longtime neighbor and contiguous property owner, we are supportive. Good luck, and let us know if we can be helpful in any way. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak either against or has a specific question? Now is the time to indicate you'd like to join the conversation.
I see no one in opposition or with a question.
Okay. Questions from the board? Ready?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions.
Dave?
No, I have no questions, Dave.
Jenny?
I don't have a question, but I have one comment. You're 13 square feet away from the max. Just wanted to point that out.
Right, that's correct.
But you're still within. I don't have any other questions.
Lee?
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach, seconds.
We need a vote. Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
All votes yes?
Randy?
Randy votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Dave?
Well, I think this is certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think it's an improvement. The house that's there looks nice, but I could see the limitations of it, and it's not a true antique or anything. So I would understand the desire to upgrade, change, and actually start over again, rather than trying to remodel what's there. In looking at the setting and the neighborhood and things, I think that this proposal fits right in. It's certainly, I think it will fit the neighborhood quite well. And then the only other thing I'd say is, I'm finding Mr. Riley's sheet on net area just as inadequate as we're trying to, the others are just, because we're trying to change this somewhat, although I know you've done this for years, but, and this is a case where, I was out there, I looked around and I'm, it's a fit, I can see it. I didn't feel like I needed numbers to confirm what I saw when I went there. However, there are times when this information can make a critical difference in presentation, and certainly for some of the members who aren't builders or architects or things are used to reading plans. That's one of the reasons why we ask for this information. So I'm just gonna get off my soapbox, and this is a good project, and I would definitely support it. It's not substantially detrimental.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 3/4 of town meeting approved a bylaw, and you have a perfect example of somebody that meets that bylaw by so many of the efforts that you've made. You came out of the Coastal Conservative District, you are further from the coastal bank, you're taller but not excessively tall, a ton of mitigation, didn't add any bedrooms. This is a quintessentially just about perfect application, so well done.
Thank you.
Paul?
Well, the lot is a great setting, and it's a good location for this particular building. I was impressed that you brought in a New York architect off of Fifth Avenue to do the job. That's very snazzy. But I assume there was maybe some fee arrangement that may have helped with that, hopefully. So it clearly is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Lee?
I agree with all my board members' comments. I think it's going to be beautiful, and it is absolutely compatible with the neighborhood.
Ginny?
I agree with everyone. It's a beautiful house now, and and by the way, I like the pictures. Thank you for including those. They're definitely more helpful than just the renderings. You know, I appreciate the design and the comments that you made about recognizing that there's an antique across the street and that it is a neighborhood that has a variety of homes, sizes, styles, ages. And I want to point out, I know you know, it's 2 years away from being 75 years old and historic. So you've kept it very, very much in keeping with what I think is a beautiful home, even though it won't be historic. It has that very much the same look. It's absolutely beautiful. Agree with Randy, improving from the CCD 5 feet. You didn't have to do that, and I think that that's significant. I'm also impressed with the collaboration for the conservation mitigation that you have with Mrs. Ryan. That's just really smart to try to tackle those invasives together. So I think it's a very thoughtful proposal, and it's very well done. So congratulations, and I would approve it.
Thank you.
Well, here's a situation where something is essentially maxed out. And here I'm talking about the square footage only being 13 square feet short of max. But you know what? This is a situation where it makes sense. It really does. Now, don't get excited. I'm not making Nick sense all the time. But I'm very pleased, and I love the idea that we didn't go over 29.6 feet and so on and so forth. This lot can handle the 2,937 square feet of house. And everything else, as everybody has said, Mr. Riley, this might be one of your best efforts.
Well, thank you.
Might be.
I spent many hours designing the house.
Yeah, I
so,
know
yeah,
you. Don't get all puffed up. But anyway, so, Paul?
I will move to approve the application as submitted. I think we probably should say that all construction activity and vehicles would be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. I don't know that we need any other restrictions, given the location.
I agree with you, Paul.
So I'll move on that basis for
And
approval.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, need a vote? Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Randy votes yes?
Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. Unanimous
yes,
vote?
too.
Thank you all very much.
And so I have a question. You know, we have numbers in the bylaw, and a lot of people design to those numbers. And so it's difficult when they design to those numbers, and then you say, well, you're maxing it out. Well, what do they put the numbers there for? It's a philosophical issue.
Some lots can handle it and some can't. That's all I can say.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Sarah, let's try 23-105.
Application number 23-105, Robert Doherty, 467 Stony Hill Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 467 Stony Hill Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15I, Block 9, Lot 18. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of a covered porch. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 15.2 feet from the northerly abutter and 15.7 feet from the easterly abutter. The proposed covered porch will be non-conforming in that it will be located 15.5 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,322 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 1,671 square feet, where 2,850 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 21,448 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Doherty?
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Doherty. I've owned the home on Stony Hill Road for 3 years. Before that, I was a renter for 25 years. and now I'm a full-time resident of Chatham for the last year. And I'm seeking to build this porch. I know that I will need a special permit to do it, to extend the non-conforming dwelling. It does not increase the amount that it's non-conforming, which I view as a positive. The lot is non-conforming because it's smaller than a lot of the lots on my street, but the house is set very far back in the northeast corner of the property. You can see that why it is encroaching on the north and the east borders. Interestingly, to the east, 20 feet of that property were sold by the person before me to the neighbor next door so that they could put their driveway there. So it was not non-conforming at some point in time. So I'm going to extend the non-conformance. I propose to extend the non-conformance by the construction of that easterly abutter. And it's going to remain significantly below the allowable building coverage. I think that I brought it to the Historic Commission because the house is 110 years old and it was approved roundly. I think it's what I am proposing to build is in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. It's appropriate in design. It's the scale, the siting, and the mass of it. It is up on a hill, but it will not look any more imposing than it already does, or it's not really imposing, but it won't look any higher than it already does. I think it improves the look of my home substantially. That side of the house right now that faces the street is very plain, and this will add some nice character to it. And I think in general, it's going to enhance both my house and the quality of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this application?
I see no one to speak in favor.
I'll read the correspondence. It's from Judith Giorgio, our health agent. She writes, "I have no concerns or comments." And that's the extent of the correspondence. Phew, I like that. All right. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to speak.
There's no one to speak in opposition or with a question.
Okay. Is there any member of the board that has a question?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach, second.
Need a vote, Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
All vote yes.
Randy votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
I vote yes. Deliberations. Paul? Paul?
Clearly no issues with respect to the bylaw. It's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think we should approve it.
Randy?
Agree with Paul, yeah.
And I would add, I think it actually will improve the appearance of the building from the street. I think it's a good idea to put a nice porch on there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way it looks now, but this will be an improvement, have a porch.
Ginny?
I agree. I think that it's a beautiful design. Is that a hipped roof that's being proposed?
It is.
Yeah, it's very nice. I did notice that it received a preservation award in 2011. I think is that before you purchased it?
Yes.
But what you're proposing is going to fit great on that hill and with that house, and it will very much be in keeping with that preservation award, I believe.
Lee?
I agree with all the comments. It's going to look very nice.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the application as submitted. I think the only condition might be all construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on-site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner.
Okay.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay. Vote? Ginny?
Ginny votes yes.
All vote yes.
Randy votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
I vote that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Doherty.
Thank you all.
Okay, Sarah, 23-104 it is. Do we have to?
Well, yes, we do have two, because I
I know,
believe
but-
you will need to continue both of them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
One is the
So
variance
we can't-
request, one's the special permit request.
Unfortunately, yes, okay, go ahead.
Application number 23-104, Elizabeth Najarian, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 128 Pine Knoll Avenue, also showed on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 5C, Block 45, Lot S39. The applicant seeks a dimensional variance from the allowable percent of building coverage for a single-family dwelling. The proposed dwelling will cover 18.1%, 1,290 square feet, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The property contains 7,129 square feet within the R20 zoning district. A dimensional variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. Under application number 23-109, the applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The proposed dwelling will comply with setback and building height requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 983 square feet, 13.8%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,290 square feet, 18.1%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 7,129 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5D of the Protected Bylaw.
Mr. Norcross.
Good afternoon, Jamie Norcross, representing Steve and Elizabeth Najarian. We are asking for a continuance because David Clark was contacted yesterday by the surveyor for the neighbor, and there's a discrepancy on the location of one of the common boundary lines for the property. So until we're able to sort that out with the neighbor, which we think we can do hopefully fairly quickly in terms of having the surveyors talk and figure out where the correct line is, we're unable to move forward at this time today because we don't know exactly what the plan's going to be for the site plan.
So, since there's a lot of unknowns, continuance, I think you know how I feel about it, unless we have a specific, so we can do it, it's continuing something that might not happen, so I would suggest withdrawal.
That's fine. I don't think the timing's going to change all that much, so hopefully
Okay.
we'll have a resolution sooner than later.
So when can we withdraw to? Maybe,
If he withdraws, then he'd have to reapply. So it would be two new applications.
so on both?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Okay, so we
Okay,
would-
so you would have to ask to withdraw both, please.
I would ask if we could please ask to withdraw both applications without prejudice, please.
Okay, Paul?
I'll move to grant the requested withdrawal without prejudice.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, so you're voting on both. If you feel we have to split your vote, please so state, but if not, you're voting on both. Ginny?
I vote yes on both.
I'll vote yes.
Randy votes yes on both.
And Veach votes yes on
And
both.
I vote yes on both, and that's it. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you very much.
And the gentleman who came today, did you come for that? And so, well, there's no point in going any further because it's been withdrawn. So I'm sorry you had to waste your time with it.
Well, I would just say we're in favor of it, but we need to,
Yeah, you can't speak, okay? Okay, yeah. All right. So, anything else? No.
I'll move to adjourn.
Dave Veach seconds.
Ginny?
Ginny says yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Paul votes yes.
Randy votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
I vote yes, and the official time is
4:40 PM.
4:40 p.m. Thank you, one and all.